the embodiment of Scarlet Devil. Despite being the 6th Touhou game, this was my first game in the series, and I imagine that's true for most people. I mean, it's by far the most popular Touhou game, at least in the mainline series. So Zune originally intended Mystic Square to be the last game in the series. Touhou Project was originally just a little series he created during his university years so he can have a game to compose music for. After graduating, he wanted to form a doujin music circle for the annual Comet, but was rejected for some reason. So instead, he decided to submit a video game to Comet and decided to go back to what he knows best, Touhou. It was going to be the 6th game in the series, but this time it was being made for Windows operating systems, as opposed to a PC-98 computer that no one outside Japan has. It was originally in development as Touhou Scarlet Tea House, before being changed to Touhou the Embodiment of Scarlet Devil, apparently being changed to match the story a little better. Instead of Amusement Makers or Zunesoft, Team Shanghai Alice is what's on the tin as a developer. It's mostly just Zune that made the game, but he did have general support. Ant, Fang, all test players, and Peanut Butter Gamer. Like I said earlier, this was my first Touhou game, and man is it a story of how I first heard of this series. No, it wasn't because of Bad Apple, Journal memes, or even Undertale, which I guess is an option now. No, it was this girl, Flandre Scarlet. Not really the character herself, but her theme song, You and Ono, was her. This song was a meme thanks to Ronald McDonald of all things, and I fell in love with the song, which led me down the long rabbit hole of discovering where this song comes from. But anyway, let's get into it. I guess the plot makes the most sense to start with. Minor spoilers, I guess, but this game is extremely short anyway. One day, a scarlet-colored mist spreads throughout the land of Gensokyo, blocking out the sun and just in general disrupting things. Reimu and Marissa decide to get to the bottom of this and travel to the source of the mist, which happens to be coming from the Scarlet Devil Mansion. They fight their way through the mansion's residence and meet the mistress, Remilia Scarlet. We learn that Remilia is a vampire who spread the mist to block out the sun so she's free to roam Gensokyo any time of day. Which, I guess, makes sense, though it is a pretty overkill solution if you ask me. In fact, we see later in the series, after her whole mist incident was stopped, that she just goes around with an umbrella in the morning. So yeah, it's a pretty basic story. In fact, you probably wouldn't have any idea what the story is unless you read the manual or looked it up on the internet. The game just starts up immediately when you begin your playthrough. But hey, the plot still works in giving the game its own identity, but it's not winning any awards. So, about that gameplay. Just like the previous 2 Touhou games, and Story of Eastern Wonderland, the Embodiment of Scarlet Devil is an arcade-style on-rails shooting game. At the start of your playthrough, you have the option of playing as Reimu or Marissa. Coming off of Mystic Square, it might seem a little disappointing that you only have the choice between 2 characters as opposed to 4, but just like Lotus Land Story, Reimu and Marissa both have 2 different shot types each to pick from, so you still got 4 total shot types to play around with. Shoot enemies, dodge bullets. That's the name of the game here. But this ain't just your average shooting game. No. It's called Bullet Hell because... yeah. Oh, in one hit, you're dead. It might seem pretty brutal, but there are some design choices to help you out here. For one, your hitbox is much smaller than what your character's sprite would suggest. This is actually a pretty common thing for bullet hells, to make the games actually possible. You'd be surprised to see what bullets you can squeeze through. You see that? That's what you call the Touhou hitbox moment. And if you do happen to die, you do immediately respawn right where you left off, with all bullets temporarily disappearing. Focusing is an important mechanic in this game. Just like in Lotus Land Story and Mystic Square, focusing will slow down your character, which helps a ton with precise dodging. But in this game, focusing also condenses your shots to be more focused in a smaller area. Basically, it lets you do a lot more damage, but in a smaller area. So it's very good against enemies with high HP, like bosses. Funnily enough, when I first played the game, I had no idea for the longest time that you could focus. But man oh man, when I did learn about it, it made the game so much more enjoyable and manageable. It feels so natural to switch between unfocused and focused. You also have the ability of using a bomb. The type of bomb you have depends on which character and shot type you use, but they all have the same general use of saving you when you're in danger. Bombs clear the screen of bullets and make you invincible for a bit. You have more bombs than you might realize at first, since if you die, your bomb count will reset back to 3. But that also means if you die while still having bombs left, too bad, they go to waste. You will have situations where you're confident that you can survive without bombing, before getting surprise hit and losing all your bombs, and then you hate yourself. Some bombs are definitely better than others, but since they're tied to specific shot types, they don't feel useless. For example, Reimu's Evil Ceiling Circle is definitely the weakest bomb in the game, but I'll still be using it a lot, since the shot type that's tied to it is my favorite shot type in the game. And there's also the Death Bomb mechanic. When you get hit, for just a few frames, you can actually save yourself by using a bomb. You'll still hear the death sound, but you'll only lose a bomb instead of a whole life. Though the timing is very tight and pretty much impossible to react to. The mechanic is there really if you meant to bomb, but we're a little late. I love this mechanic though. It gives you that much needed wiggle room for bombing, and it feels so satisfying to pull off. Shooting down enemies can drop some helpful items for you to pick up. These blue items with the kanji on them are point items. They give you a pretty good amount of points. How many exactly depends on where on screen you collect it. Collecting it higher up on the screen gives you more points. A nice little risk versus reward scenario. These red P items increase the power and range of your shots, so yeah, they're pretty damn important. Your power meter naturally starts off at 0, but will max out once you get to 128. Not really sure why that number specifically. One new thing added to this game is the auto collect ability. Once you're in full power mode, you get the ability to auto collect all items on screen. This is done by moving near the top of the screen, so it can be a little risky, but if you know when it's safe, it could be a really helpful ability. Continuing to collect the power items when you're already at max power will just give you points, though not as much as the dedicated point items. Even if you don't care about getting a high score, it's still very much in your best interest to get as many points as you can, as getting enough points earns you extra lives, and trust me, you're gonna need them. Another way to get points is through the grazing mechanic. Anytime a bullet gets close to your hitbox, you'll earn a graze point. Without getting too much into the specifics, the more graze points you have, the more points you can earn at the end of the stage. Honestly though, graze is not something I really go out of my way for. You'll naturally get some with how many bullets are on screen, but to specifically get as much graze as you can becomes very dangerous. Now, like I said earlier, this is an arcade style game, so the main game itself is extremely short, lasting 6 stages. Or lasting only 5 stages if you play on Baby Easy mode. But that does mean if you happen to lose all your lives and get a game over, it's back to the title screen. Well, okay, you do have some continues that you can use, but more on that later. Each stage has a mid-boss thrown in there, as well as a boss at the end of the stage. They even each come with a little introduction banner. I've mentioned before that you have the choice of playing as Reimu or Marissa, who both have their own shot types.
And then Marissa, if she shoots laser beams or Christmas trees. One or the other.
Why Christmas trees?
Because they're called magic missiles, but they look like Christmas trees.
Holy shit, they do look like Christmas trees. Now I can't unsee it. I also like how when you use Reimu's homing amulet at certain points in a stage, the bullets look like they're dancing back and forth as they try to follow the enemies. Marissa is generally the more powerful of the two, while Reimu has more range. Marissa is also faster than Reimu. That might seem like a good thing, and when it comes to nabbing those items, it is, but I actually preferred Reimu's slower speed. It can be all too easy for Marissa to accidentally head into a bullet due to her speed, even while focusing. Reimu's more controllable for me, while at the same time not being too slow. The biggest addition to this game, and the whole series for that matter, is the spell card system. Spell cards are a way the game organizes the boss's attack patterns. If you deplete a boss's health bar down to a certain point, they'll transition into their spell card, which you can tell due to their character portrait dramatically appearing on screen. Spell cards are a boss's most unique attack patterns, both visually and sometimes in how you dodge them. For example, Sakuya's spell cards all involve her stopping time, setting up bullets, and then unfreezing time. And all spell cards have a name, so you can more easily remember them. Deplete enough of the boss's HP and you beat the spell card, and then go on to their next attack pattern. If you manage to beat the spell card without dying or using a bomb, then that spell card is considered captured. Capturing a spell gives you a huge point bonus, and as I said earlier, more points equals more lives, and more lives equals more survivability. But I would still say to not be afraid to use bombs when you need them. It's better to simply not get the point bonus and survive than just die. Besides, you can't capture it if you died anyway. Most bosses have one spell card per health bar, but that's not always the case. Overall, I love the spell card system. It adds so much more character to the game, and makes patterns way more memorable and fun. There are even some spell cards that are completely different depending on which shot type or difficulty you pick. And, fun fact, the bombs that you use are considered your character's own spell cards. One thing I don't like about this game is the play rank system. Basically how it works is that when you survive for a while, the bullets will get a little faster. But if you die, the bullets will all slow down. I'd rather have the game not take pity on me for messing up. Though honestly, it's not too big a deal here. They don't slow down too much, and it should take no time at all for the bullets to get back to their fast speed. So, about those continues. If you lose all your lives, you have the option of using a continue, which will bring you right back to where you died. But you only have 3 of them to use. Lose all your lives and continues, and you're forced back to the title screen. The way I see it, continues are there for newer players, or for players who aren't good at these kinds of games, so they can still see the game through to the end. But the game really doesn't want you to use them. If you use even one continue, your score gets reset back to 0, you aren't able to save a replay of your playthrough, you get the bad ending of the game, and you don't unlock the extra stage. Back when I first played the game, I was bad, and used continues all willy-nilly. When I beat Rumelia for the first time, I was on my last continue. I felt so accomplished until I realized the extra stage still wasn't unlocked. When I learned that you had to beat the game without continuing on normal or higher to unlock the extra stage, I was just so stunned. I just barely managed to pull through on my last continue, and now I can't use them at all? But still, I wanted to do it. And I think that's actually kind of amazing when I look back on it. I hear of this task that just sounds absurdly difficult to me, but I still wanted to practice and get good enough to do it because the game was just fun. Zune really knew how to make great bullet patterns. They looked daunting at first, but I found them to be really fairly designed. They don't require you to be pixel perfect, but are still a great challenge that's incredibly rewarding to overcome. It also helps that they all feel pretty unique from each other, especially because of the spell card system. Plus, it makes you feel cool seeing that you're able to dodge the crazy amount of bullets. So many people already made the joke about dodging rain, so I won't make one here. But anyway, I played and played for months, really wanting to get that 1cc. 1cc meaning 1 credit clear. Just immediately restarting if I made a huge mistake early game, since I needed those lives for later on. This is how I really started to remember the names of the characters and spell cards, from all these attempts at trying to 1cc. Patchley was the freaking MVP in ruining so many of my 1cc attempts. At the start of my playthroughs, I would think that this could be the run, but not necessarily expecting it to be the run. And I did get frustrated here and there, but I was definitely getting better. I would eventually start knowing, yes, I can do this, I just need that one playthrough where I do everything right. And when I finally did do it, man, it felt like I was on top of the world. Only for me to immediately get my ass handed to me by the extra stage. But still, it was such a great feeling finally getting that 1cc, I made sure I saved that replay and even uploaded it on YouTube. And hey, I even warmed up to Patchley after I learned how to properly kick her ass. That was all on normal mode though. Yeah, the game has 4 different difficulty options to pick at the start of your playthrough. Easy, normal, hard, and the one for weird people. Let me tell you though, the difference in difficulty between these options is so big. Like I said earlier, when I first played, the game kicked my ass on normal mode until I buckled down and got good. Then hard mode became the new challenge to overcome. These days, I'm confident once CCing hard mode without much trouble, but Lunatic is just pain. I have done it on Lunatic, but only twice, and it could take a few tries. Let's talk about that extra stage though. You can access it on the title screen once you unlock it. Here, you only got one difficulty option, being simply called Extra. It's meant to be the hardest difficulty, but I honestly think Lunatic mode in the main game is still harder, since the main game makes you play through 6 stages. Extra is just the one stage, though you will find out that it's by far the longest stage in the game, and you'll only be able to play as character and shot type combinations that you've gotten a good ending with. You also can't continue, but by the time I unlocked the stage, I was past using continues. But this isn't just some random bonus stage, it's actually part of the plot. After the whole Scarlet Mist incident, Vermilia actually becomes a regular visitor at Reimu's shrine. Reimu and Marissa notice a storm that seems to be only in the vicinity of the Scarlet Devil Mansion. Vermilia convinces them to check it out, since she apparently can't travel through the rain. They find out that the mansion is in chaos, as Flandre Scarlet has escaped. Flandre Scarlet being Vermilia's younger sister, who was locked in the basement for 495 years. Yeah, a pretty long time. Reimu and Marissa have to then fight their way through the basement to challenge Flandre. The extra stage holds no punches. As far as how the difficulty scales, you can think of it as continuing right after the final stage of the main game. This fairy in particular used to give me such a bitch of a time when I first played. I thought she just had an insane amount of HP, but it turns out you simply can't hurt her until after she's done spewing bullets everywhere. When you eventually get to Flandre, you'll find out that Jesus! She has a whopping 10 health bars! For comparison, Vermilia had 5, and she was the final boss. Oh, and if you happen to bomb during one of Flandre's spells, you'll still save yourself, but Flandre turns into a bat and avoids all damage. Being invincible during bombs is an ability that all the future extra stage bosses would adopt, but it makes the most sense with Flandre. She actually turns into a bat to avoid the bomb, while the future bosses just kind of turn invisible or something, I guess. Just like once seeing the main game for the first time, it was a struggle for me to beat the extra stage for the first time, though it didn't take me nearly as long. I had way more skill this time around. This is such a great fight and a welcome addition to the game. Flandre's non-spells are relatively easy, but she has some of the most unique and difficult spell cards in the game. Since you do the extra stage on a different playthrough, the Flandre fight being as long as it is makes a lot of sense. And even though I don't really play the game for the story, it's respectable how Zune used the extra stage to add a bit more lore and a new character to the game, instead of, say, just making you fight a powered up Vermilia or something. So Reimu and Marissa put a stop to Flandre's rampage, and well, it's pretty unclear if Flandre just got sent back to the basement or not. Despite how popular of a character she is, you never really see her outside of the embodiment of Scarlet Devil. Now, I have to talk about the dialogue for the game. The actual plot of the game is something you only find out in the manual, but the characters still have their interactions once they meet up. Her writing can come off as witty and especially weird at times. I'll deep freeze you together with some English beef. Yeah, just go with it. It's definitely funny at times, but overall it's something you only read the first time you play, or if you haven't played in a while. I am using a fan translation courtesy of Touhou crap, since none of the Touhou games have official localizations. Like I said earlier, this game was made for Windows operating systems, so as far as the graphics go, it's a big step up from the 16-bit days of PC98. There's just so much more detail here for everything, and the spell card system makes the bullet patterns so much more unique from each other. The most common grunt enemies that you shoot down now are fairies instead of those weird cartoon ghosts from PC98. I do wish we had both though, just to give a little more variety to the enemies, but it's not a big deal. I can't really tell you what the hell these things are supposed to be though. I hear a lot of people talk about how bad Zune is at drawing the characters, but I never really thought they were drawn bad. Sure, they look quite different from the countless amounts of fan art, but that's the thing. The drawings from the games are the originals, and I thought they looked fine. The official art just has a different style to most fan art. Besides, this game gave us Saku's smug shit-eating grin. Oh yeah, this game was also the first game to use Reimu Marisa's modern designs. Okay, the true first game to use it was the first Touhou project game, but the Embodiment Scarlet was the first game to use it that people actually played. Now, it'd be a crime if I made a Touhou review without mentioning the music. Because this was on Windows now, Zune composed the music for this game with the Roland Eddie Roll ST90. This is when Touhou got its iconic soundbot with that one trumpet. To put it simply, the Embodiment of Scarlet Devil's soundtrack is absolutely amazing. Some top-notch stuff right here. By far one of my favorite video game soundtracks ever. Almost every single song here I love and listen to all the time. Trumpets are my favorite instrument to listen to, and Touhou is a very good example on why. I love how powerful they sound in Touhou, and Zune knows the best time to use them in a song. But even the songs that don't have the trumpets, like Chirno and Flandre's themes, are so good. I would sometimes just delay starting the game so I could listen to the amazing title theme. And you can really notice how complex the background instruments are, and how much they really add, the fast-paced drums in some songs being a good example. The only tracks I don't really care for are the Stage 4 theme and Patchley's theme, but every other track is great and I can't pick a favorite. Hell, the music of this game is what led me to discovering this series. If I absolutely had to list some standouts, there would be Chirno's theme, the Stage 3 theme, and both Scarlet Sisters themes. But like I said, pretty much every track in this game is outstanding and worth listening to over and over again. It's a good thing I love the Stage 1 theme, because I've had to hear it so many times because of restarts. What's really cool is how in the music room, where you're free to listen to any song, Zune has his own comments for every track. The writing can be weird at times, but it's a joy to read through and learn what he was thinking as he composed these songs. Kinda wish more video game composers wrote comments like these for their music. There's also an option to switch the music to their early MIDI versions that were used earlier in development. They don't play exactly correctly on your computer, unless you happen to have a Roland SC88 Pro, which let's be honest, you don't. But hey, they do sound at least close enough. I do prefer the final versions of the songs, but still, having the option to listen to the early versions of the soundtrack is an awesome feature, which, again, I kinda wish more developers did. You can also turn off the music entirely, but why would you do that, you monster? That about covers all the talking points of this game. Overall, Touhou 6 is a joy to play. It's not a game I play for the story, but the music and gameplay more than make up for it. This is one of the games I've beaten the most amount of times, although I will say that's kinda unfair, since this game takes about 20 minutes to complete anyway. But still, the game has a great challenge that will really make you want to improve your skills, so you can finally overcome it. And that's how any great difficult game should be. I won't say that there aren't any beginner's traps, but they're few and far between. And even after already overcoming the challenges, it's still fun to just go through a run again for the hell of it. If you want to get into the Touhou series, I would definitely recommend starting with this one. This was kind of my first attempt at doing a video review, so I hope it went well. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Reese's Puff, eat 'em up, beat 'em up, beat 'em up, beat 'em up. Reese's Puff, eat 'em up, beat 'em up, beat 'em up, beat 'em up. I got Reese's Puffs in my bowl. Nowadays on cruise control. I got Reese's Puffs in my bowl. Just like that, I'm on a roll. Reese's Puff, eat 'em up, beat 'em up, beat 'em up, beat 'em up. Reese's Puff, eat 'em up, beat 'em up.